What's up, everybody? This is Herschel Froome from High School Top 200, and this is the Top 200 podcast, the Monday morning meeting. It is pretty cool to be back. I love checking back in every week, twice a week now. I just like to, I guess, report, if that's what you can call it. I like reporting back on the games that I watched over the weekend, which is a lot now that everyone's live streaming, which is real cool because I get to get a decent look at everybody. Like most of the time, I think like most years I would see pretty much all the top, I'd say 60 teams at least 3 times each a year, which is a lot. It is a lot. Like that's a good amount of games to see. But now, um, I've seen like Scots College like 7 times. I've seen Silverstream, 7 times. I've seen Christchurch Boys. Well, I've always been really good with Christchurch Boys. I've always seen a bunch of things, like at least 8 or 9 games a year of Christchurch Boys. Um, I've seen Nelson 5 times this year. Even King's High School, I've seen 5 times this year as well, and Otago Boys. And like it's always funny because like Otago is just one of those places where they tend to not want people to see them. It's real strange, Like um, I don't know if that's like a disconnect between the union and sort of the fans, because the fans always have this. It's strange because the fans always have this cry, and I don't want to say it like cry, but it kind of is a cry. They cry about like people not acknowledging them or people not recognizing them on a national scale, especially when when Otago or Southland Boys have a really good team, or even like this year with Kings having a good team. They always go, "Oh, we get disrespected." It's like, no, it's not disrespect. It's the fact that no one from the union wants us to see anyone. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to. You guys will put out rep teams, and they won't tell anyone that they have rep teams. So how else are we supposed to talk about you? And it's not the rest of the country's fault that we don't hear about you guys because the union doesn't want to put stuff out. It's like the union don't want to promote because they don't want to let any of their boys go, but at the same time they're comfortable in taking boys from other parts of the country. It's real strange that way because like I don't know. It's like they have this thing about trying to be all about the local boys. Like they always have this brand that they talk about. Oh yeah, we use all local products. It's like no, you don't, because there's not that many Samoans and Tongans down there. And now you guys are starting to recruit the better guys. Like and that's where this is like one thing, little bit of a tangent before I go on to like the scores from that happened over the weekend. But um, if I was the Highlanders, I would go to South Auckland and go. We've got a university down there that has one of the best medicine programs, like not just in the country, but in Oceania and in the Southern Hemisphere. Like we've got Otago University. Why wouldn't you go to South Auckland and promote that to all the boys and get them to come down to university? There's a lot of smart people in South Auckland. They just don't have the opportunities, or they don't know where to find it, and you just don't put it out there. But now you got heaps of guys go. I mean, bloody hell, you guys got Solar Mao to go down there, and he's going to be a big deal. That dude is so huge and so physical and so strong and such a talented player that you got one of the best props in the country to go down to Otago, and he's from Tonga, and to go down to the cold. But you got to offer him something because he's a smart kid as well. So like, you can get more kids down there like that. But you still got to promote your program. You still got to promote your region. But that's why I never understood why they just never wanted to talk about what they had. It's strange. I don't get it, because then everyone's just like, oh well, you guys you're doing us dirty that you don't talk about us and that you don't promote us. I was like, yeah, I do. Your guys just don't promote your players. You fellas just don't promote us, not me. I do all I can to find out who it is. Like I cover teams like Gore High School, and at one point James Hargis and Verdun, Verdun or Varden College, like guys like that, like even Wakatupu. I like watching their games. I've seen three of their games this year. 3 games of Wakatupu, and you think that I don't watch or try and promote, the deep South rugby? It's like, yeah, of course. I just don't get it, like, and they always feel a bit. They feel shafted, but I think you're getting annoyed and angry at the wrong people. I mean, if I ask for information, I hope that they would help in terms of, like, yeah, we want our union to be recognised in our, especially at first 15 level, but they just don't. I mean, I've known about South Otago High School for ages, since like Josh Farnger was there, and now he's in the Hurricanes, in the Highlanders. Um, and so it's just, oh, not Josh. Josh was the younger brother, Matt, and so it's it definitely is not me. That's not the problem. The problem is Otago Rugby Union and the Highlanders don't want to do that kind of stuff. And they're naming a So I got word that they're naming an under 18 um, Highlanders team that will play the Crusaders under 18s, which would be great. I hope that they actually name 2 teams so that the Crusaders can also pick 2 teams and they can have a go at the under 18s. And I mean, the top Highlanders team would be really good. It would be a really strong team. The second one, maybe not so much, but at least you get a lot more kids playing at a higher level, because that's kind of what you want from your rep teams. I mean, I hope, I actually hope the Blues, Hurricanes, and the Chiefs also get 2 teams each to play. Blues always choose 2 teams, and the Chiefs always choose 2 under 18 teams. And so I hope they do the same. And then I hope the Hurricanes got enough players to choose 2 really good rep teams, especially at under 18s. And so I hope that they do the same as well, because um, for the first fact, we have a bunch of talent. It's not like we're scraping for talent, especially in the North Island. We're not scraping for talent at all to get 6 big time under 18 teams. But I mean, I just hope they get selected and they're able to play in their colours. The same thing with the under 18s for the New Zealand secondary schools. It's like, I hope that they go with my idea if they don't have an idea of how to do it. But surely you can get a New Zealand Samoan, New Zealand Tongan Māori team, and even a Fijian team. Like, as I've kind of gone through a lot of the rosters and seen all the Fijian players that are out there, maybe struggle for some props. I mean, they got 2 really good hookers in the St. Thomas hooker, Rover, and then the one from uh, New Plymouth Boys as well, who's also another good hooker. Yeah, spacing on his name, but yeah, they. I don't know. I just really, really hope that they get New Zealand secondary schools team out this year and they get to play somebody, because the boys, I guess, the boys that deserve to and that have been working towards this, you're still able to pay them and then get them to put on the jersey and then represent at the same time. Like, I hope that kind of stuff happens. Um, yeah, yeah. I just hope that's just one of those things that they're able to do that. Um, Starting with the games, the game started on Tuesday with Nelson College losing to Timaru. I spoke about this on Friday, and this is like the first time ever that Timaru won in Nelson, I think it was, which is a big deal. And Nelson is a good team because, I mean, um, I guess it's just one of those things because, I mean, if Timaru beat Nelson on a Tuesday, and then Nelson can win on Saturday against St. Andrews, who are in the top four, and Timaru's not in the top four. It's just one of those kind of strange. Um, because you can't really explain it either. Like, how does a team like Nelson lose to a team like Timaru on a Tuesday, back up on their second game on a Saturday, and then beat one of the top teams in the competition on the Saturday? I always found that as pretty strange. Like, I was like, how do you guys do that? Like, how can you guys be so? And this is not a fault to Timaru, because Timaru's actually um, Timaru started off pretty good, was terrible for a few weeks, and then was just climbing and climbing and climbing every single game, and they got on a lot better. And I mean, they beat Nelson, who beat St. Andrews, and then St. Andrews beat St. Bede's, and St. Bede's just beat Timaru, and so like that like cycle of those four teams is like you can't really explain that stuff except for the fact that Timaru can get better every single game. May not win every single game, but they've got better every single game, which is a big difference. And then be able to beat someone like Nelson, but then lose to St. Bede's on the Saturday is just I don't know. I don't know how you can explain it, but I mean, it's just one of those things that rugby is that I guess it doesn't really matter what team that you have down, but I mean, because a lot of players and a lot of teams look at it as, well, we're ranked this high. It's just like, yeah, you're ranked that high, but it doesn't mean that you stay there just because you're ranked that high. You're ranked that high because you're playing the game. You have to actually play the game. Don't win it on paper or win it on record or anything like that. Because I mean, things like that happen. I mean, like, look at New Plymouth Boys. It just happened to them when they lost to Gisborne Boys, who's only won one game, which was against Hastings, and then they were able to pull it off against New Plymouth Boys, and Gisborne was just playing good. I guess it's just one of those things where Gisborne was just playing good. They weren't. Um, well, I don't feel they were helped. Like, the commentator was pretty crack up. Like, that was funny. Like, if you get to watch that game, the commentator is real funny. I wish commentators would be like that. Like, I'm not into traditional commentators in the traditional sense. I'm just not into that voice. I don't know. I'm not. I don't enjoy the voice of commentators, because it's like you can take the voice that they use now as a commentator, and then you could take it back to the '80s, and they still sound the same, and then they're the same in the '70s. It's like that voice. It's like going to the supermarket, and then you stand there and they go, "Oh, hey, how's it going? How's it going?" It's like, you don't even talk like that. What are you saying? It's like, can I help you today? It's like, yeah, but you're not a robot. Just talk to me properly. Like, I'm like that. Like, I would, like, don't put on a voice. That's kind of how I like it. And the commentator that was on the Gisborne game in New Plymouth, he was pretty funny. He was like normal. I want a commentator that you could just sit across, like you're sitting at home watching a game and just talking about the game in front of your mate. Obviously, without the swearing and stuff. But I mean, just to be honest about what's going on. That's how I like commentators and the way things are done. But I mean, back to this game is that I feel like the forwards for Gisborne Boys did a lot better to retain their ball and to fight for the position to hold or win the possession of the ball. Um, I I think that they put a lot more grunt and a lot more mongrel into what they did on Saturday than they usually do. No, they usually do it, but it fades off. Where this game they held it on and they held it right to the end. And I give it up to those boys. I mean, like, it's been a hard season for them. Um, Only winning one game, only being able to win a game against Hastings, Um, and it's not easy in the Super 8. It really isn't that easy at all. And I guess to go out like that, I think it's pretty cool that they were able to do that and able to get a win over such a big team like New Plymouth Boys as well. I thought it was great for those boys from Gisborne. And and the best thing is that a lot of those boys are going to be back from Gisborne too, and so that's going to be pretty cool. That they'll have a squad full of guys with a lot of experience and the guys that know what it feels like to lose, and they can draw on that and sort of go, well, we just don't want to do this next year. And then all the year 12s that will step up to year 13 and all the year 11s also have that experience to even fight back and just come back as a better team. Um, Hopefully that transitions. Hopefully that transition. It doesn't always, but it's always like a really good positive when you have at least 12 to 14 guys who can all come back and um, all be an asset to your team. Is the other thing. Don't be, I guess, train hard in the off season. Don't be complacent and don't be so yeah, like set in your ways of what you think is going to happen. Yeah, you're going to have a bunch of guys coming back, but at least do the work in the off season and in the summer to ensure that you guys are going to have a really solid team that can compete in such a hard competition. Is what I'm kind of saying. I mean, like take for instance Hamilton Boys, who they played on Saturday against Napier, which I expected to be a really hard game. I didn't think Napier was going to win. I just didn't know it was going to be 43-7. They don't have a team that says that they're going to get beat 43-7. And pretty much after that first try to Jaden Stock, it was just downhill from there. And they scored first, and they scored early. And it wasn't like Hamilton Boys blew it out in the second half. They pretty much started to blow it out right after they scored their try. And then Hamilton pretty much scored 2 minutes later and then scored again straight away. And by halftime, it was like 20 something, I think it was, 7. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And it just, I think the whole team didn't have a good game. The team as a whole did not have a good game. It wasn't any individual that didn't have a good game. It wasn't like any one person that was um, lacking or anything like that. It was the whole team just did not have a good game at all. And pretty much after that one try, I don't know if they got too relaxed and too happy about scoring that first try, but then after that, it just didn't. Things weren't working out at all. Things weren't as clean, and I felt a lot of timing was off. A lot of depth in their run was a bit shaky at times. A few individuals that I thought should have uh, maybe linked up a bit more. People getting caught by themselves a lot, which is something you can't do in any game, but especially against Hamilton Boys, who will always make you work at a breakdown. And if you're just standing around, they're going to keep testing you at the rucks. If you're just standing there over the ball and not really paying attention, they will push you off the ball easily. And so it was just stuff like that. And it was really disheartening to see because I was real excited about this game because I thought um, Napier Boys was going to challenge them as well and really because Napier Boys had been playing so good. I just thought it was just one of those things. It's like, yeah, of course they're going to. I mean, I didn't think that. I didn't think they were going to win, but I thought, of course, they're going to push Hamilton Boys to really work in this game. And for the first 5 minutes or so, they did. They really did have Hamilton Boys on the back foot. scrambling a bit, and then after 7 points, then Hamilton boys just, I guess, made everything uncomfortable. That's what it is. Made them uncomfortable. And even when they had the ball themselves, they were still made to look uncomfortable. And it was hard to even get. It was hard to see Napier boys even string together some good phases of play. I think there was one part of the game where they went on about an 8 or 9 phase where they were actually gaining ground, gaining traction, and it started looking positive. And then it took a little bit of, I think it was a wayward pass back, and then Hamilton boys just swarmed that ruck straight away off that mistake, and then I was a turnover. Then they scored a try. Like, so it was something like that where I just thought, man, it's not. I don't know. I think they might have just lost that little bit of confidence after Hamilton boys sort of answered back on their try. And yeah, I mean, I felt sorry for the boys because I was looking forward to a good game, and I knew that they played themselves into a position where they were confident. They've been playing really good rugby. They had, I guess, got all the wins that they needed to get, and then something like this happens. I thought, poor fellas. But that's just how it is when you come up against Hamilton. And the worst thing is that they have to do it again, making another trip up. And I mean, I guess they're gonna know how it feels to be Hastings boys when they've had to do it. I guess the last 3 years in a row they've had to play Hamilton boys back to back. On consecutive weeks where it's not an easy thing to do. Even for Hamilton, when Hamilton had to play Hastings at their top, it's just not an easy thing to do. I mean, I guess you'd rather play them early in the season and then play them at the end, not have to play them back to back, which is a hard thing to have those turnaround games. Um, the Rotorua Hastings game was real good too. Jordan Hutchins, number 7, was always good for Rotorua boys. Always has a really good game. Even when I try and pick my team of the week, his name will always come up. He's just so good over the ball. And to me right now, he is the best number 7 in the country right now is Jordan Hutchins. And so Hutchings. And so I would be interested to see. Well, first, like, I hope the Chiefs are looking at trying to keep him. I mean, he's from Dargaville, and so the Blues will have something to that. But I've always noticed that when, in the past, when the Blues have had players leave their region, they're not keen on selecting them for reps, and so I mean, especially when the New Zealand secondary schools, they kind of just wait for them to leave school and then they try and get them to sign back after that. Um, and I wonder what they're going to do with him now because I think that he's going to be a pretty special player, Jordan. So, for me, just selfishly, I guess, because this is my region, I love the Chiefs. I hope the Chiefs try and keep him. But Saturday he was like one of those players that was on the ball and always hard to get him off was the problem. Hard to get him, I guess, away from contact, especially when he gets in it like right away. Like he's just a hard guy to move off the ball, and he's quick too. Like the one thing I've noticed about him is how fast he is, and when you have someone that's fast and knows how to read the game at the same time, those are the kind of guys that you don't that you have to plan for. I think you have to plan for how you're going to stop that person because Vivina is the same. Like I saw from Tauranga boys, he's the same as well. Is that like because he's so fast and because he's so strong once he gets over the ball, and he can take a lot of hits and a lot of guys coming in trying to clean him out. He's for some reason he just does it easy, but he's kind of like that too. The same thing with Jordan is that um, Vivini and Jordan Hutchings are just hard guys to move off the ball once they're there and once they're set. Um, Kenny Fanua was the other one that I really liked in this game at lock for Rotorua boys, and I think that he did a lot of work that allowed them to just recycle back faster and to, I guess, keep the movement going. He did a lot of stuff on defense as well, which I thought was good, and just how solid he was hitting some of those players. And even his line-out work was really good too. I wish that they would go to him a little bit more in the line-outs, especially on defense, where I think that um, he can really disrupt the throws and just really alter the way that guys, the hookers, get that ball in. I think that he was one that uh, maybe they should rely on him a little bit more in the lineouts. Like throw him up every defensive line, just throw him up and just have him battle it out with someone up there and just get in their face kind of thing. Um, who was it? Tuatoa Porima at number 8 for Rotorua boys, who to me is just such a solid runner, ball carrier. I wish I would get him in better situations once he gets the ball, because he's such a hard guy to tackle. He's such a, even when he runs, he's got a really low, um, uh, a low stance in the way that he runs. That he, even when he gets hit, he can take those hits well. That he just sort of has him roll off his shoulder kind of thing. Even when you try and take him low, he's got enough strength to take the hit and then just to pull his leg out and just carry on with the run. And even guys are just dragging onto his leg. He's just got that balance to do that as well. And even got a really good fend just to hold off players, just to get that little bit more meters, up the field. That kind of stuff. I like the way that he runs like that. Um, yeah, and I mean Hastings have struggled, and it's not like a bad struggle because I don't. They haven't been. I mean, they haven't really been blown out this year too badly. I think in every single game, um, they have. I mean, yeah, I think I've been pretty competitive every single game. I mean, against St. Kitts, they were 13-5. They just beat. I mean, they just beat Fielding. They just beat Lindisfarne. They just beat Hastings. They just beat St. Pat's Town. Um, I mean, they lost 25-8 to Palmy Boys. They lost 15-10 to Napier Boys. They lost 17-5 to Gisborne Boys. Um, Palmy was a bad game. Yeah, Palmy was a bad game. Oh, sorry, New Plymouth was a bad game. 35-13. And then they beat Tauranga Boys 10-7, which was that game last week. Um, and they still got Hamilton Boys. Well, that's not going to be a good one, is it? Hopefully they can hold Hamilton Boys um, to a good, respectable score. I mean, obviously it doesn't look that way, but I mean, you never know what can happen. the boys can really. Um, I don't know. I think it's really hard when you think about it with high school kids, because high school kids are different because um, it can be a bit erratic in the way that they choose to play. Some boys just don't want to perform sometimes, and something may be bugging them that really throws them off. And it may not be anything that has to do with rugby. It may be a chick. It may be schoolwork. It may be a mate of theirs, that one of their boys that they are having something with, some conflict with, that just bothers them through everything. And maybe stuff at home that they don't really want to talk about or explain. And then just the way that it comes out on the field and the way that they play, that you could have one of the best guys in the country just not performing because he's just not really there in the game. Like, he can sort of run on sort of that zombie mode where he just goes through with the motions, and then he ends up having okay games, but it's just not him really playing. um Hastings could be the same in this sense, where they just turn it on, and because it's not like they don't have the good players. And it's I think it's one thing. I think it's kind of unfair, and um I think since I've been doing this, it's easier to explain to people. um and this is where I always tell people, don't tell me about last year. Don't tell me that you should be better than this team because of last year, because there's no one. Like, it's different. Those boys aren't here. This is not the Chiefs. This is not an NBA team where you can re-sign kids to come back. It's like, you can't do that. Once they finish year 13, or they're over the age of 18, or if it's like they're finished. So you don't have the same exact team coming back. So to me, it's just like, well, if you haven't done your homework on the teams and you don't know who's returning, then your opinion doesn't really matter to me that much. If you don't know who's coming back or who has left and who they haven't got replacements for. Hastings boys have kind of been on that, and they've kind of been in that. They've been put under that spotlight of, you guys were good for the last 4 years. How come you guys aren't doing that? I was like, yeah, well, that's hard to replicate, 2 national titles and a final, to what you're doing now. It's like, of course you can't always replicate that, and of course you can't always produce that year after year. That's not just a that's not a 5-year program. That's like a 10-year program. That's a Hamilton boys program where they've really just built it up to be that way. Hastings are only just starting that, really. They're only just in the infancy of doing a rugby program like that, and it's actually working. And they actually have really good players that are coming through next year, that are all still young, that will all be able to commit 2 years to that their first 15. And they still have guys that are in the first 15 right now, like Cooper Flanders and Donovan Godney, um, you know, guys like that, where even Muffy, who's on the wing, like Muffy Tupo, who's on the wing, like those kind of guys are the ones that you want back. Um, Troyden is another one that I think, because he's a young year 12. um, he's not treated as a year 11, but really that's what he is. He's actually a year 11. And having someone like Troyden, who is, I guess, who is ahead of his time, has to sort of and come in and sort of catch up. Sorry, this is Troyden Bird that I'm talking about, and he's a talent. Like, I think if there was like a player of the year for under 15s last year, to me, Troyden would have been that guy. Troyden, I think, would also be along with A1. Um, I think A1 would be Another guy that I feel like um, Lolofi, who's the other kid, A1, the other kid that I'm talking about, those guys will probably be two guys who are year 12s, are young year 12s, but if they had under 15, I guess, awards, those two guys would probably be players of the year for that kind of award. Um, and those are the kind of guys that I think that Hastings boys are bringing up, are guys like that. That will be able to take over even next year. Like A1's playing so good. Um, Victor Tavita is the other one that's playing really good as a young year 12 or as a year 11. Um, Obviously, Miffy Tupou, who I was talking about before. Um, those guys as well are. I mean, Philip Panapa King can also, who's the halfback, can also come back. Even Hoyda, um, Stevenson, who's the first five, he can also come back. I think Adam Bibby is the other one that also can also come back, who are all real young players. Um, I think all of those guys can all come back. I mean, Damon um, Broff is the other one that I think can come back as well because he's a young year 13. And I mean, because he got injured right at the beginning of the season, and he should have been the captain in open side as well. I mean, if he was to come, I don't think he is, but if he was to come back, that would be a massive lift for the team and for the Hurricanes, to be honest. And he's such a good player. Um, Kaiho Pasikala is the other one who's the blindside. He's a young year 13, but he's a blindside. He's the guy that, if he comes back next year, he's going to be one of the guys that I really look for in terms of blindsides next year at a national, at a New Zealand secondary school level. Just the way that he's playing now, um, and once I think his body grows into it, and he starts hitting the gym a bit more, especially in the year 13, and like when they're just at the age. I mean, I think he's going to be one of those guys as well that is going to be pretty impressive next year if he comes back. If he comes back to school, I don't know whether he is or not. If he comes back to school, um, yeah. But Palmy boys against Toto was such a messy game. Uh, and in all honesty, you didn't really know. Like no one really played that good in that game. It was hard to really tell just because it was so messy and it was so slippery and muddy. And the game was, it's funny because the game was so muddy, but it didn't rain. It was like a sunny day and everyone was just sliding all over the place and drop balls, things like that. It just wasn't an impressive game. And it was just one of those that who could ever adapt to the field properly or who could adapt first was going to win the game. And I guess because Palmy is their home field, they were the first ones to do it only because of familiarity. But at the same time, they didn't even play that great either. Like none of those teams played that great, and it was just a messy game to watch. And the Waikato took it all, played that Kalkaroa team college. I don't know. I still don't know what they are. I probably just do some homework on them, especially being from Hamilton. Forest View, who's really good. Like Forest View's different, right? Like if you don't know what Forest View High School is, they're from a place called Tokoroa, which is here in the Waikato or Bay of Plenty, King Country, whatever part that you want to call it. I don't know where the boundaries start and end with Tokoroa, but I don't know the Waikato because they're part of Waikato rep teams as well. But Tokoroa is such a is has two schools, high schools in Tokoroa and Forest View. Well, those are the only two high schools that I know of, anyway. But they have talent, but they're all league players, and there's such a league following there. And I think I wish that if there was more funding in the league, especially in Waikato, and this kind of takes away from rugby. Because I mean, I love rugby more than I love league, but those two schools shouldn't be playing rugby. They should be playing league. And I wish that they had more money here because I mean, like, um, Ngaruawahia and Huntley are also league schools. They would probably get more league players out of it than rugby players. Fraser High School here, I think a lot of them are more league players than they are rugby. Um, St. John's was kind of like that a little bit, but I think they're more rugby players now than there are league players. But there would be a really good league competition here in Waikato if they just had more money. I think if they had more money to travel, I think it would be a different story. But Tokoroa is one of those places where they just have so much talent. They just play rugby just to stay fit and to stay in shape. But they're really waiting for the league nationals, which is sad because there is no league nationals this year, and so they're going to have to miss out. And that's where like top 200 comes into it. It's just like, yeah, I don't want to just stick to rugby. I need, and this is where the help of funding comes in. I need to expand so that I can help out other kids in all these other sports. All these league players are all missing out on opportunities to be seen and to show what they can do because they've got nothing, nothing's going for them. But I mean, if someone's talking about them a lot, then there's that opportunity for them to still get looked at, and at least teams can come to them and go, well, we're just going to do this training thing for you. Just run through all these drills, and we'll just take you through it, and then we can make our assessment of that, which is something that's always good to do. Fraser High School actually upset Te Aomuru College, which is really strange. Te Aomuru should have won that one, but Fraser, I guess, stepped up, played really good. Cambridge High School lost to Matamata College, 13-26. That finals for the CNI finals was such a back and forth game, and they ended up sharing the title, which I thought was strange. I thought that there would be more of a. I mean, just so that everyone knows, you can't go over the 70 minutes. That's a world rule. It's not like a New Zealand rule. It's a world rule. Um, but I thought that whole game. I think the reason why St. Peter's drew was because that forward pack actually did stand up, and I was kind of worried that they weren't going to show up. I was kind of worried that they weren't going to show up and um, they weren't going to do great um, against that St. Paul's um, forward pack because I mean, even when they had Malachi Rappling come back from injury and go in at lock for St. Paul's, when I saw that, I was thinking, oh man, I don't know if these guys St. Peter's would be able to handle that much. But they actually did. They went around, they were just flying around the field, making tackles. The backline did really, really good, I thought, through Dawson Smith and Quinlan Tupou and even with Blake. Marketing was the other one and Justin Villareynolds also as well getting the ball a lot more. I thought was really cool that they spread it out that much. Callum Mullen was the other one that the number 8 for St. Peter's, who I thought had a really good game as well. Um, Him and Harry Boyle, I think, really stood up because Andrew Smith, Andrew Smith, who's the lock for St. Peter's, always has a good game. He's just that way, and he's a young year 12. Um, he always has a good game. He just always does his part. Shane Rettenmeyer, who's the other one that I thought had one of the best games on the field, uh, I think he also showed up and not just did the grunt work. He actually did a lot of open field running, which I thought was kind of strange. He does it a little bit. I mean, because he hangs out there on the edge as well, but he did a lot more, and just his runs were so much more better. I think he's so much more productive, and he was a guy that really stood out in that game as well. Um, I thought Anadupai Morgan played really good. I thought for St. Paul's, Havila, obviously, Molia was also really just the same as he is. He just does it in and out. Like, he's just kind of, yeah, he's just one of those guys as well that you just know that once uh, Havila has the ball or he's in that position. I mean, him scoring that last try, I thought, well, yeah, of course he's going to score that last try. That's just kind of what he does. Quincy Connor was also another one that had a really good game. Um, Ben Strang, who's like a young year 13 at halfback, he also really, really solid player. And um, along with Lincoln Winter, who was the number 8, who's a year 12, he'll be back as well. So there's a lot of these guys that all can come back, and that's why I talk. I guess I rate um, I rate St. Paul's so high because these are all young boys doing it. They're not the older team. Like even St. Peter's school, only one is not coming back from that starting yesterday. Only one player is not coming back, and in the back line, 3 of them will be back. In the back line, 3 of them can come back. Actually, I wouldn't say can come back. Will be back. 3 of them will be back. So having a forward pack like that, and then a back line like that with someone with Dawson Smith, who's going to be guiding them around again, with Cash Farmer at fullback as well, and George Muir is the other one on the wing. Like, yeah, of course you're going to want that back. And so, like, they're another big team to sort of look out for because having a forward pack that can all come back is going to be, of course, a real positive look for you when you're looking sort of at the future. I mean, Thomas Kane, Joel Cox, Joel Cox, Lincoln Winter, Nia Church, Malachi, Rappling, Tavita, Tokiaho as well is going to be back for St. Paul's, and all these boys are going to be back for St. Paul's as well, along with Ben Strang, who can come back if he does, or if he doesn't. Anadu Paya Morgan will be the other one who can come back next year as well. James Broomfield is another one that can come back too, and all these guys. I think those are the only ones that are coming back. Yeah, I think those are the ones coming back. But even that is just such a. I think Campbell Robb might be able to come back as well, the hooker. But I mean, that's why I look at these teams as teams that are going to be real special next year, is because they have so much guys that can return, and um, uh, it's going to be interesting what the CNI competition is going to be like. Because even with Whanganui Collegiate as well, they have a lot, and their win over Fielding, um, which I guess was meant to happen. Which I think, well, I guess wasn't a surprise. Not meant to happen though. That's the wrong word. Not meant to happen. Um, that was kind of not a surprise because they had beaten them um, 3 weeks ago, I think it was. And so, like, you kind of just, yeah, you kind of just thought, well, that's, that's not going to be a surprise. They can do it, so they can do it. They've done it before, they can do it again. But even Whanganui Collegiate, they have a lot of guys coming back too. Adam Beard, who's the hooker, he's coming back. Conrad Newlands, who I think is probably the best Year 11 prop this year, he's coming back. Ben Strang, who's the lock. Harvey Meyer, who's a blindside lock, who I'm really excited about, and I hope to see him on the field again soon. He'll be back because he's only Year 11. Tian Prophet, who's a Year 12. Thomas Pease, who's Year 12, and that's a 6 and 7. Josefa Namosi Malua, who's the Year 11 number 8, who's the big Fijian number 8. He'll be back. Harry Godfrey, who I think Harry Godfrey is actually the best first 5 in the Hurricanes region right now. It would be between him and Orion Kalolo from Scots College. I think will be the two best first 5s right now. And Orion played really good against Silverstream on Saturday too, and I just think that's his position. They'll be playing him as second 5 as well. But Harry Godfrey's another one. Then they have Sean O'Leary, Waka Noah, who's Year 11. He's the centre, and then Luke Myers, who is the fullback. And all of those guys are coming back for Whanganui Collegiate next year. And so they're another team that I was sort of looking at too. And then so you have a strong year and this is where the CNI is going to be a real strong competition next year, because St. Paul's have a bunch of guys coming back. St. Peter's school has a bunch of guys coming back. St. John's College and Hamilton have almost everybody coming back. Only 3 people are leaving. And then Whanganui, who I just called out as well. Francis Douglas, even though they had a terrible year this year, they still have a lot of guys coming back next year. Lindisfarne have a good batch of players coming back next year. And they won their game against St. John's as well, 29-25. Rathgill have some really good players coming back next year as well. And then St. John's Hastings has a good amount of players. I think 9 are coming back. I've got to double check that. I think 9 are coming back. And then Wesley have a bunch of kids coming back too, which is going to be real strong team to see. So to me, the CNI Cup, the CNI comp next year might even be better than the UC Championship down in Christchurch, which is not usual. I think only one year that I've rated the UC the CNI competition better than the UC Championship. But I think next year they're going to have a stronger competition than the guys down in Christchurch even. They're definitely going to have a stronger competition than the Wellington region, than the Wellington comp and the North Harbour comp as well. So the UC Championship is going to be, the CNI comp is going to be pretty strong next year. And to me, if you're gonna play teams as like your warm up, I would go to the CNI competition and hit up those teams to go to test your own team, because I think that they're going to have some of the best teams out there next year as well. So hit those teams up. Like I said, the Silverstream and Scots College game that they played, Silverstream won. But this is what I like about Scots College, is that Scots College, I think, even from watching the game, even though they lost the game, I feel like the Scots players got it, and they learnt a lot more than what the Silverstream side did. The only problem that I have is that, and I don't know, and this is where I guess private schools struggle, is that um, who was it? Eric Lawson was the one that got injured, and he is a big loss to that team. With Yeti Campbell, who played second five and not center, they're gonna have to do something there. But using like losing Eric, um, that's gonna be a problem. But Yeti is whether he plays second five or center. This is Yeti Campbell. Whether he plays second five or center, um, it's not that. It's whoever has to take that place of Eric and what they can bring to that position, because they're going to have to eventually play Silverstream again, and they're going to have an answer for Riley Higgins, who is a problem for everybody, because he might be the best centre in the country. And so they're going to have an answer for that. But in terms of the whole thing, I think that Scots College are in a better position because now they've seen and they've learnt a lot more. And I think moving Ryan back to first five has made a big, massive difference to everything that's happening, because I think that he is the better organizer as well as a better defender. And because he's physically a lot more imposing as well, which is something that I think everybody is cautious of. Because if you just look at Orion, he looks like a muscly dude anyway. He just looks big. You're like, how the hell is that first five that big? And that's kind of the thing. And then, doing all that, because I'm sure he does a lot of weights, but he still has to be a bit careful that he doesn't lose the mobility and agility in the way that he's played before. He can't get too big. He's got to have to balance that out somehow. But Maya Timmer Schmidt, he played really well. Dominic Ropeti, who always plays well, he played really good. John T had a really good game as well. Even on the Silverstream side, Peter Lakai played really good. What's his name? Southall, however you pronounce his name. I was just about to say his brother Mitchell. He's another one who played really well. And I think, I hope that Tony gets, Ropati gets Tony Solomona gets the ball a lot more as well, because I think that when you put him in more position to, I guess, attack more, he's just going to give you a lot more, because that's his thing, is that he's a good attacking player, and I think he just needs more opportunities. Luke Wormsley can easily bring him in off the wing, maybe play him a bit blind, get him more one-on-ones, things like that. Or Peter Lakai using him on the blind when he runs like an 8 move off the blind and just have him there, something like that. But Toby Crosby and also Marco Venter, all those guys are still there. Lockie Forbes, they're gonna figure something out. They should be the stronger ones. I just think that Scott's learned a lot more from this game than Silverstream did. So it's going to be interesting if they both make it back in the finals. Sorry, I try and keep these to an hour. I know I talk a lot, and it's because I have a lot of information that I kind of want to give everybody and stuff that I have seen myself, and just want to get as much kids out there as possible. But 12th ranked St. Pat's Town beat Mana College 56-5. Wellington College, that's a good game. Wellington College and Wairarapa, watch that game. I forgot his name. The winger with the blonde hair had a really good game for Wellington College. I thought he was really sharp. Rongotai beating St. Bernard's 23-19. Aotea picking up a win against Tawa College 28-19, which I didn't think was going to happen. Upper Hutt as well, as I continue to keep talking about this Upper Hutt High School, who should be in the first division. They beat Silverstream 35-15. Put it all won over St. Pat's Town, second 15, 38-12. I really hope this Upper Hutt team gets some better games, because there's such a good team out there. Number 9th ranked Christchurch Boys. This is the UC Championship. They won 38 nil over Odaki combined. Like I said before, Nelson College beat number 13th ranked St. Andrews College. Rangiora again, number 17 ranked Rangiora High School beat Lincoln combined 70-7. Mean game against Christ's 20th ranked Christ College against Shirley Boys, beating them 15-10. And if you watch the live stream, it does get confusing because they're switching back and forth, and it feels like you're watching two games and a highlights all at one time. But it's the same game. There's highlights, like replays, but it's just you just got to adjust to how they're swapping the cameras back and forth. It looks like it's different games, but they're not. It's the same game. Really good game to watch, though. The game itself, that Christchurch and Shirley was such a close game, and really, I think no, you can't say hard done by, because Christ is a really strong squad. I just think Shirley could have won that one. I think Shirley let that one slip. I think Shirley let that one slip, and it's the same with St. Thomas. Watch the St. Thomas and Waimea, which is a really good game. It was just one of those ones where it just felt like Shirley let that one slip, and it was the same as the Waimea one, because Waimea one, who they got the win. Waimea got the win. I think because Macca Springer is, I think, a different. He's a different kind of player, Macca Springer, and he was playing at centre for Waimea combined, and he's the one that actually, at the end of that game, he's the one that really saved them. St. Thomas messed up on 2 tries. 2 tries, almost 3 tries. But when Waimea got the turnovers, Macca was the one twice who booted it downfield all the way back into their 22, and then St. Thomas had to make their way all the way back up, straight onto their line again. Got another turnover, then Macca booted it down again, and then it just took so much time and effort to go back and forth. And but at the end, they just a wayward pass, went a bit forward, knocked it on. I don't know if it was a wind that took the ball forward, but he knocked the ball on, had a scrum, and then Waimea booted it out. And congrats to Waimea for winning that, because St. Thomas had their chances, more than close enough to have their chances. Montel Peppard, who I think had one of the best games over the weekend, he could have had 3 tries and was just tackled right at the line, and he was maybe 2 meters away from stretching out and putting like. And I was when he took that last hit. So he bumped off this guy and was kind of stumbling at the same time. I thought he was going to put his hand out and put the ball out in his hand to reach out for a try because I thought he was in that space and he just, um, yeah, he just was just a bit short. I don't know if he just had that in his mind or he was playing too cautious. He didn't want to knock it on or something like that, which I understand because like you don't want to knock it in on those situations. But he was right there as well. And I think he had one of the best games of the weekend. Um, and he was, and that was just one of the tries that, one of those opportunities that they, where they could have won the game. And it just didn't, yeah, it just didn't come off. Didn't come off for them. Um, but anyways, Marlborough, they won. Marlborough boys beat Mid Canterbury 60-7. Um, John McGlashan just down in the Otago. John McGlashan beat St. Kevin's, which is good, I guess, for John McGlashan because they've had such a uh, underwhelming year. And I think they know it too. They should have been a lot better, but they just, it's just not the way that the year turned out. Heaps of injuries. At one time, there was a lot of injuries in that team, which just didn't help either. Having injuries is fine because that's just what happens. But when you have, I guess 4 guys who are the 4 main players in your team, or 4 of the 7 main players in the team, that's just a lot to handle. And sometimes teams just don't know how to get out of it. And that's kind of what happened to John McGlashan. Wakatupu won against South Otago 29-26. And Otago winning was, I guess, another example of teams that know how to win. King's High School stuffed around so much in that first half. I think for 25 minutes, Kings, to me, and this is like just being honest, they didn't do anything. And it wasn't even Otago putting pressure on them. It was like their own mistakes, which was frustrating to watch. It was frustrating to watch them make mistakes that weren't pressurized mistakes. It was just their mistakes. And Otago made every opportunity that they had work for them, which was so cool to see that Otago was like everything that they had. They go, oh, here's an opportunity here. We're going to take it, and then they took it, and then they just ran with it and ended up scoring the tries that they wanted to in that first half. And it was hard. It was kind of. I can't say it was kind of hard to watch because Otago were playing really good rugby that was great to watch because they hardly made any mistakes, making good decisions. I think they were a lot more organized as well. I actually think Otago played better in this game than they played in the first game that they beat Kings, which was another, I guess, example of having slow starts or having just not being prepared. Not prepared, can't say that, but just having slow starts and taking so long just to get into the game. And this was like the perfect year for, I guess, King's High School to take over. I mean, they have all the players like missing. Mahonri Olvaa is one thing, and that's fine because he is such a big. He is a big guy, but he's such a big piece in the way that they run their team that it's like King's High School made it known that he wasn't there. They played like he wasn't there and that they needed him, which sucks because then that just lets everything else down in their team as well, especially when they make it look like it was their base of how they would do. It's just that kind of thing. Um, Samisi Taialoa, I think him and Finn Hurley, who were both year 12s, those two to me had the best game um, on Saturday. Samisi was just so hard to tackle for Kings that he pretty much made all the meters that he kind of wanted to make. He was just so big and strong, and his running style was he was just pushing everybody off. Finn Hurley was another guy that I really liked the way that he played because he was, I mean, not just that big tackle. And it's funny when you got two real small, skinny guys clashing together and then one skinny guy smashes another skinny guy. It's just really cool to watch. But it wasn't just that, but just the way that he directed from fullback, inserted himself into the line, was really good kicking down the field, sort of inserting himself as a playmaker, or as a dummy runner, or a good support play as well. I mean, Cameron Miller scored most of the points anyway, but I feel like that Finn Hurley, him and Samisi played better, just played a better game. Jake Tahiwi was pretty good as well. I really liked Oliver Haig, as always, I think just plays good all the time, and it's just such a big part of that team. I thought Levi Tudor, also Caleb Hughes played really good. Ronan Daines had a really good game as well. Got a really crucial turnover at one point. But yeah, they really had good games. Tane Hand, I think, played pretty good for King's High School as well. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I guess it's hard to talk about King's High School and their performance only because it was like, even though they did make a comeback and they did push right at the end, you just can't do that all the time, and that's just the way that they've been playing. I mean, that's how they played in their first game as well, and they keep playing like that. Like Jay Davis played really good. Joji Bully had an okay game. Keanu had an okay. Keanu Vicini, Keanu Vinici had an okay game. Maybe should have been a bit more assertive and demanding the ball as well. Cole Kirkman also, I thought, was really good at lock. Just getting through all the hard stuff, but yeah, I mean, I think that's just what happens when you take too long to get into a game. You just end up having a pretty crappy game, and then everything becomes hurry up. Everything becomes an emergency, and they played like that in the second half. Like everything was an emergency. Everything has to work. They in the second half, they pretty much had to play like every time they had the ball, you can't make a mistake. That's how they played in the second half. Like you just weren't able to make a mistake at all, and there wasn't any kind of space to breathe and to try things. Everything was just panic mode in that second half. And even though they almost pulled it off, it shouldn't have been that way in the game if they just played. Even if they just played 15 minutes of the first half really good. I mean, I think they only played like 10 minutes. 10 minutes of good rugby in that first half. They only played like 15 minutes or something like that of really good of good rugby. I would say it was more like 10. Because Otago just dominated everything in that first half. But they are another team that have a bunch of returning guys, and so it's still going to be interesting, and they've still got to learn from it. But they've got a bunch of guys coming back, and so I hope it works out for them in this off season, and they come back with like a renewed appreciation for the team that they have and the position that they're in. That they should be the winners down there. I think Otago still just kind of scares them. Traditionally, kind of scares them, and they just have a rap on that part of the country right now. Otago boys just, yeah, they just have that kind of thing on them. But for another week coming up, it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be real cool. I'm going to bring out another podcast that just talks about other sports because I just love sports altogether. And NFL is starting up today, or majority of it. My Chargers, hopefully, we're going to be. I hope we're going to beat the Bengals. Not hope, I think we'll beat the Bengals. Who cares about them? They're a useless team. So, and as I say that, I just read the headlines, and there's heaps of questionables in my Chargers team, which sucks. Especially for our offensive line, which we should be better at. Anyways, this is Herschel from High School Top 200. I'll see you back here next time. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that kind of stuff on the YouTube. Please help me out. Contact me if you want to jump in on this and, sponsor, sponsor the page, the website, the podcast, the whatever else that I'm on. But that's High School Top 200. Herschel from, peace.